What's up, everyone? Northeast RC here, back in the shop. The saga and drama continues with this Outcast 8S. I got the 800 kV hobby wing motor in this thing with the Max 5 setup. It's got a lot of power. I do have the punch turned down, but this thing does take a toll on your outdrive cups, your shafts, and obviously the differential. Mainly in the rear for me because I do a lot of wheelies with this thing. I'm not out stunting and jumping it. I just doing a lot of wheelies, a lot of speed runs with it. So I'm hammering it pretty good, but I do have the punch level turned down. But this is my second diff I'm going through, and now I obviously wised up and ordered the aluminum diff. So now when I lock the screws down and thread lock them into the aluminum, they're going to stay, because you can't do that in plastic. It just doesn't stay. They always end up loosening up, and then your planetary gears and your spider gears get stripped out, as I'll show you in a second down here on the bench. But I did order the aluminum ones. They should be here tomorrow. I'll get this re-put back together, Loctite it, get it sealed up, and then I'll change the front one and the center one when the time comes. I haven't had an issue with those. I did rebuild them and put new diff oil in them. So far, so good. It's just been the rear that's been taking a beating on this. So if you do have an Outcast 8S, I highly suggest that you change the diff to the aluminum one, where you can Loctite that big outer spur gear onto that differential so it doesn't loosen up. Because with the plastic one, it's just going to come loose. You're going to hear it grinding and stripping. And then before you know it, you're not going to go anywhere. It's going to be stripped out. So second trip around, I did order it. It'll be here, I believe, tomorrow. It didn't come with a gasket, so I had to reorder a gasket. That won't be here probably for a couple more days. So midweek next week, it's Sunday today. So during the week, I should get the gasket. I'll get this thing back together, and we'll get it ripping again. But let me show you what we got here so far. All right, so here's the differential out of the truck. The input shaft is fine. There's no teeth missing out of that. That ended up checking out pretty good. And also the big spur gear, the teeth are absolutely fine on that. Now I'm not going to go touching this stuff because it's still covered. I still got to parts clean it all. But as you can see on the spider gear, it's missing teeth. You can see it's missing a tooth there on the planetary gear. It's pretty chewed up. And the reason being is, number one, we're putting big power 8S with that 800 kV motor. And these differential, the whole diff is plastic. So, I mean, that's not a good idea, running plastic. Those screws, you can't Loctite them into plastic. It just doesn't work. They're going to back out. So you definitely, when you're running these big power 8S 5th scale machines like this, you're going to want to go through it. Right when you get it from the factory, you're going to want to make sure everything's tight, because usually the quality's not that good out of the factory. So take it apart, tighten it, go through your diff setup. I put 500,000 in mine. You guys can put whatever you want in yours. But just make sure everything's tight. And if you can, budget allows, buy yourself an aluminum diff case. This is the second one for me. I said, after this one, I'll go with the aluminum one. It did last decently after I did thread lock it, even though it really doesn't work in plastic, like I said. But now we're going to get the aluminum one. I'm just waiting on that and a gasket to come in, because this gasket's chewed up as well. So once that comes in, we'll get it back together. Also, my drive cups, as you can see, they're beat up on one side from hammering, doing the wheelies and hitting that punch. So what I'm going to do now is, this was the right side. I'm going to switch this one over to the left side so I can get my money's worth out of the cups. So if you don't want to buy new cups and you want it on a fresh side, just swap them. Just take it from your right side, put it on your left side when you put your diff back together. So just another little quick tip there. So once everything comes in, we'll get this put back together. We'll re-grease it, repack it, put the 500,000 back in it, and we'll get it back in the truck, and we'll get it back out ripping again. Get this thing bashing. So that's it, guys. Just a quick little tip on this. If you're going to do big 8S power, I would definitely highly recommend getting an aluminum diff case. Thread locking into that, and you should be good. But always double check from the factory what you got. Pull them apart. Make sure it's got diff fluid in it. Make sure it's tight, and go from there. All right, we're going to hop out for some final thoughts. All right, so I hope my brief explanation on what's going on with these big power 8S vehicles helped some of you guys out. Just something to look for. Just little tips and tricks you learn along the way when you're doing this and putting this kind of power to it. These are things you definitely got to look for. All right, guys, leave something down below in the comments. And remember, until the next time, keep building and bashing.